Hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode with a SPFBOX author live panel. I am so excited to be here with five brave new people who are on at 9:30 in the morning on a Wednesday of all days. It's like, oh yes, let's chat about books at 9:30 in the morning in the middle of the week. But no better way to start the middle of the week, I guess. For those who have not tuned in before and have no idea what SPFBOX is or what we're doing, we are going to be meeting five new competitors, or peers in my case, in the self published fantasy blog off. And that's a competition where there are 300 books. They're divvied up among 10 bloggers. It's all organized for free by Mark Lawrence. And yeah, so a whole bunch of new faces this year. We've got Damien on, we have L. Ryan on, we have Alex on, Jim is on, and Karen is on. Thank you all for joining me. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing great.
Awesome.
Good.
Good.
Excited.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I'm excited to get to hear just about you and your experiences with SPFBO before today, if this is your first year or you've done this before, and then about the book you chose for this year. Karen, you want to kick us off and then we can just sort of go around the circle?
All right. Yeah, I'm Karen Lucia. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I actually just learned about, the whole thing last year when I decided to venture onto Twitter for some reason. From there, decided I was going to maybe try to take part this year. With that, obviously, it's my first time participating. The book that I submitted this year is Landbringer. It's actually my fourth book that I've published. It is about a young woman who spent her formative years in the gangs of these like floating land masses, and now she's looking for an escape from that life. With that, of course, she makes the determination she's going to do one last heist, get the funds, and break away. So, of course, that goes pear-shaped right from the get-go. And with everything going wrong and all her friends kind of dying around her, being captured, she kind of just assumes that's the end and then gets rescued by this super unlikely pair. And that's about the point when she realizes that she can see dead people. And with that, she comes to realize that one of those folks that is rescuing her is in fact a ghost, and then her sister is a super toxically flawed individual. So very unlikely duo. And with that, she kind of gets pulled into this whole world of magic that she never really realized existed in a lot of ways. Lots of conspiracy, lots of ghosts, lots of fun little things happen from there.
That's awesome. And you're a fantasy book critic too. So a lot of good bloggers. How are you feeling being in that blog?
Good. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I just started looking through some of their reviews recently, and I actually put a few on my list after that. But I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. They're a good blog. I was in there last year. I felt like the reviewers did a fantastic job just reviewing everybody, even the people who were cut early on. So that's nice. It's like any publicity is good publicity, right? Oh, Jim, welcome. Good to have you on this morning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with SPFBO before this, and about your book?
This is my first experience with how is it pronounced? SPFO?
Oh, SPFBO. Yeah. I didn't know
Um,
how to do it for the majority of the panels last year, so I was like saying SPFBO, SPFBO over and over and over, and then someone was like, "You could just say SPFBO," and I was like, "Oh, thank gosh, that's so much easier."
SPFO. I'll remember that. I'll remember that. I've been saying SPFBO too. Um, I've been writing for over 30 years. I have. I just published a new fantasy series, and that's the book that I submitted to SPFBO, and I think it's my 18th or 19th book or something like that. And I had some success. I've had more success as a self-published writer than I've had as a traditionally published. I've got some books published with HarperCollins, but that's another story. So the book that I submitted this year is, let's see, can you see it there?
Yeah, up there.
Dread Child. Oh, is it reversed? It's
No,
reversed.
look
Okay. Dread Child. Okay. It's the first book in the Dreadmark Covenants, and it's the story of so a young boy has a birthmark on his arm, and the question is that birthmark just a smudge of discolored skin, or is it the dawn of an ancient curse? Guess what? Okay. And
Spoilers.
and so the story opens with this little boy who's he's a bond servant. He's just a little boy in a kitchen in a castle, and this sort of wizard type fellow who's pictured on the cover there. His name is Cainborn, and he notices this birthmark on the boy's arm, and for an instant he sees something else, and he thinks he's seen the dread mark. And at that point, the story takes off from there, and the little boy grows up and has to. It's a coming of age fantasy, of course, and he has to deal with the Dreadmark covenants, and the evil sorceress and her lover.
Are there any dragons?
No dragons. I've never written a dragon into. I think this is my second fantasy series. Never done a dragon. Mostly sword, sorcery,
Magic and
very, very traditional, battle scenes, things of that nature, a lot of action, but traditional fantasy, but it's not dragon focused. I do have a great.
I knew you were going to be.
The boy is a half breed. He's half Scairn, and the Scairn are this race of people with vertically slit pupils and amber eyes. But he's half Scairn, and he has to deal with the issues of being what he's derogatorily called a Scairn Draka, which is a half-breed Scairn. Okay, and so the story takes off from there. I've actually published the first two books, and the third and final book will be coming out here in a couple of months.
Hello.
Awesome.
Okay. So that's
Congratulations.
That's me in a nutshell.
Hey, getting ready on a full series.
Pardon me?
Yeah. So Alex, I'm excited to get to chat with you. I know I've seen you around the socials a little bit, and so when I saw your name on the list, I was like, I get to meet Alex on the live.
Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking about you. I was like, I'm so excited to talk to her. This is going to be great. So my book is The High Seer. I love this cover, so I have to show it off because it's spooky. And
that is a good cover. That is a really good cover.
So it's a dark fantasy. It came out in October, and one of my writing group critique partners was the runner-up to the science fiction competition last year. And that, as I was getting ready to publish this, her experience in that made me want to enter this year. So debut. So this is my first SPFBO, and I'm just really looking forward to meeting everyone because everyone's been so welcoming and wonderful. So my book is a dark fantasy, dark high fantasy, romantic fantasy a little bit, about a high seer who, when she was born, had a birth prophecy that basically she specifically cannot save her people. She has visions of the future, and it's not going to help. And in fact, it might even hurt a little bit. So she has lived her entire life under that burden. And during a deadly rite where she's essentially risking her life to try to get a vision that will help her overcome that destiny, a common-born blacksmith saves her life, and she has a vision that he is the only one that's going to be able to gather the 5 warring countries on the continent to be able to basically help them overcome this apocalyptic magical war that's coming. They find out that it's the emperor and his dark goddess, who's not all that she seems. There's some secrets there. And they're who's coming. And it's a massive continent, tons of power, and they're just going to come obliterate them. So it's about how they basically try to get powerful magical allies to overcome this. Of course, it's romantic. So he begins to fall for her, even though she is fated to never fall in love with anyone. And you start to see that through the book, which is kind of a fun conflict. And at the end, they have to decide whether they are going to release monsters that are even worse than the ones that are coming for them, and sort of those moral dilemmas. And I love morally gray characters. And so every single one of my characters is going to make some really bad decisions that they have to deal with the consequences of coming soon. So it has a lot of magic that has pretty big consequences, like the seers are losing their sanity and the naturalists are growing bark skin, and the vampires don't want to be good. The werewolves don't want to control themselves. There are some dragons that you'll see a little bit. So, yep, that is my book.
I love the idea that the main character is not the chosen one, but that there's a chosen one in the book. Because I know it's overdone, but I love chosen one tropes. I just really love the ones that are original. Like, this is a different play on a classic trope. I love that. And especially with her being like, oh, I'm fated to never fall in love with anybody. Does he change fate or not? Interesting twist there. Or doomed to love somebody he can never be with. So many good questions there, Alex. All right. Elle, good to have you on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and SPFBO and your book?
Thank you. Yeah, so I entered SPFBO 2 years ago, SPFBO 8, and I was sent packing, licking my wounds. It was a very cool experience. I think my book ended up probably with a group that it was not the right group for that book, which is fine. You know, they basically, if I remember correctly, I think it was something along the lines of, it was okay, but you know, it's kind of like everything else we read. Didn't finish it. So, you know, vowed, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this again. I missed the last year, just didn't have, you know, timing of one coming out. But so this year I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. So I submitted Temper the Dark. And yes, there are, before you ask, there are definitely dragons. It's young adult fantasy. I actually write mostly young adult. Temper the Dark features, I like to pitch it as a girl, a boy, and a senile dragon. It's definitely a long, I'm glad that was that I've made somebody happy. But basically there's a servant girl in this island empire who has been imprisoned. She doesn't know why. She soon finds out why, because she is basically develops a power that kind of went through her family that she didn't know about. And she's able to dream walk. And so that's actually how she discovers this dragon. And then she's got to kind of work together with a guardsman who, of course, is, you know, absolutely obnoxious and terrible. And of course, handsome, because that wouldn't be fun if he was not. And so the two of them actually have to work together to kind of figure things out and overcome the evil emperor, which is kind of fun because it's definitely, they definitely start out enemies. It's enemies to lovers, and that's always one of my favorite tropes. I know it's overdone. I know people hate it, but oh my God, I love it.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with a good enemies to lovers trope.
Depends on the audience.
Especially with a senile dragon thrown in. Okay. So this year you came back and you're in Queen's Book Asylum.
Yes.
How are you feeling after, your last experience and then coming in and being in Queen's Book Asylum?
After the last experience, I think it's definitely in the right group this time as far as what they like, what they don't like. I think I wasn't gritty enough for the group that I was in the first time around, and the book that I had the first time around. I mean, this was the cover, so it was 1,000 Years to Wait. It's clearly very, I think, much more, I don't want to say feminine because it's not feminine, but it's definitely geared towards, I think, women more than men. And I think I was in an all male group, and they were just like, they wanted the blood and the fighting, and I didn't have it, so.
But it's a really good point for people coming into SPFBO the first time, is that it doesn't really matter what kind of fame people have had, because there's like famous award-winning authors and stuff this year, and it doesn't really matter necessarily that your book is better than someone else. It also comes down to just highlighting quality indie books in general, right? And I think that's why the community is as tight as it is, because a good review isn't necessarily always going to be an I loved this review. It's a review that has obvious, honest points about what was good, what could have been better. It helps your writing improve, and then it showcases these books that hit all those boxes. And so when I went out last year in SPFBO 9, I was so relieved that like Esme's review for my book was spot on. I had released an extended edition of the book after SPFBO started that fixed a lot of the errors that she was like, this could have been better. And then it made me feel like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm growing the right way. And it's just great overall to get that kind of feedback.
It's a great contest to add to your TBR too. Like we didn't already all have a TBR that was a mile high, but you see all these books and you're reading the descriptions and the reviews of them, and you're just like, oh yes, that one. Yep, that one too. It's a good.
Yeah. That's a good place to say that. I haven't mentioned this already. If you're watching live and you go down in the description box, you can find everybody's book links. So if any of these books make you go, oh, I've got to read that one, you can go click in the link, grab the book, get started on your TBR for SPFBOX. Damien, it is good to connect with you as well. How's it going? How are you feeling going into SPFBOX?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's my first time ever entering the competition, so I'm really kind of excited to see how it goes. So just to start off, I'm Damien. I suppose if my accent hasn't given away, I'm from Ireland. I currently live here in Dublin, so I'm absolutely delighted to hop on and say hello to everybody here. I'm the author of the Irish military science fiction series, the Big Red series, and that's due to I spent 7 years in the Reserve Defence Forces in the infantry. So a lot of my stories tend to be very kind of military based. I entered SPFBO with my military fantasy called Lizard Skin and Sharpened Steel. It doesn't have any dragons, so just to get ahead of that question, there's no dragons.
Even though
maybe for the next one.
It's not dragons.
It's not dragons. It's basically I fuse two things that I kind of love, which are kind of like medieval swords and shields type kind of battles and conflicts and dinosaurs. So I basically have a group of mercenaries dispatched to an isolated continent where dinosaurs still exist, and they're tasked with retrieving a Jurassic or T-Rex egg for use as war. So I know it's a little bit different. I certainly haven't come across anything like it before, but a lot of it comes down to kind of they always say write the book that you want to read, and I just did. It's something where I love that whole gritty action thing. I love dinosaurs. I love Jurassic Park. I love like the Velociraptors and all that type of stuff. Grew up on those, and I distinctly remember when the idea came to me about 2 years ago. I was rewatching Jurassic Park, and I remember thinking like, these lads have like jeeps, they've got guns, they've got all these sensors, they've got all these gates and kind of mechanized and electronic equipment. How would you deal with that if you didn't have any of that equipment or technology? If it was just swords and shields and spears, it'd be like 10 times worse, and the brain just kept kind of spinning. So I decided to write it, self-published it there in just only a few weeks ago. It was actually 4 days before SPFBO opened, and I was absolutely delighted to get in. It's a competition I've heard great things about. I've followed along for all the other competitions over the years. Some of my colleagues in the British and Irish writing community have entered in before, and I'm glad to see that I've got a couple of friends in it this year, the likes of Alex Bradshaw, Stevie McKinnon, Jenny Hannaford, I'm probably forgetting someone else. Oh, Holly Tinsley. So there's 4 people I would know and chat with on a semi-regular basis that I'm absolutely delighted for. But yeah, look, we'll see what happens. Good luck to everybody, by the way, and it's fantastic to meet everybody here.
Yeah, I was actually thinking you've got competitors here in the blog because you're on covers with Cassidy. And we have
Yeah,
other
that's right.
covers
Yeah.
with Cassidy people here on the panel.
Lovely.
But I love the dinosaur aspect because it made me think, oh, when you grow up loving dinosaurs and then you see less and less dinosaur books, and now it's
Absolutely.
like, oh no, I'm bringing them into the adult gritty
Yeah,
fantasy. Here we
100%.
go. So going into SPFBO, it's a lot of everybody's first time. I know, Elle, you're coming back for the second time, so I'm going to let you start with this one. But is there sort of a strategy you have for connecting with other authors, connecting with readers, going into like watching for reviews as opposed to it's in, I'm going to pretend it's not happening, and then I'll come back in 5 months? Like, what's sort of your approach? Elle, for you specifically, what is it that you did in SPFBO 8 that you think you did really well versus what you're going to try to do different this go round?
I don't know that I'm going to try to do anything different, but I think just being genuine, honestly, being genuinely happy for other people who are moving forward is such a big thing. I know, when you look at the writing community, especially on Twitter, which I'm really not on much anymore. I'm kind of on Threads now and, some other stuff. But like, you look at the writing community, you'll see there's like 2 really different worlds. There's one world where like everybody is celebrating for everyone. This is so awesome. You've got this coming out. You've got that. And then you've got the other one where people, it's just constant trash talk and it's terrible. And, I try to stay away from that second part. I am so genuinely happy to be in the company of all these amazing writers. All of you guys are incredible. And I think celebrating all the little wins. I don't know necessarily that you have to track when's my review up, am I going to the next round, or just the connections and the community are really, I think, just the biggest win in this whole contest, this whole competition. And in the writing community, I think on the whole, when you look at online, I've made most of my writer friends I have made online from various writing communities. So I don't know if that's, incredible wisdom or knowledge there, but just be happy. Just go with it.
I love it. Yeah, it's very positive. It's a very, very positive message to have, and 100% I agree with you. I think something that kind of sticks out in my head is it's a lot of the time it's about the journey, not the destination. So it's about enjoying yourself along the way rather than kind of counting down to see if you get into the final spots. It's just enjoy it, sit back, and if one of your colleagues gets in and there's a win for someone else, like cheer them on. So yeah, I applaud that mentality.
Yeah. And a lot of it is luck, like you said. It's, if your book is placed in a group where it may not resonate, that doesn't mean it's a bad book. That doesn't mean it doesn't succeed somewhere. It means in this instance, at this time, at this particular spot in the world, in the universe, it didn't go to the next round. So I think that's really important to remember too. Just because you get cut doesn't mean anything at all.
Yeah, we had the SPFBO 9 finalists on last week, a couple different panels of them, and one of them said, if you're going to come into SPFBO with the mentality of I'm better than everybody else and my book's going to beat everybody else's, you're sort of setting yourself up for disappointment, because there are so many good books and the genres are so vast that to say that my dark epic fantasy with a romantic subplot is necessarily better than Damien's gritty war-focused dinosaur fantasy is not like apples and oranges. So you're getting down to here are some good quality books, and that's fine. Love that mentality. And Karen, you've been watching from last year, you said earlier. So what about you as far as like your approach to how you want to tackle SPFBO?
Oh, I have no strategy. I'm just here for the party. Um, I have read a few of the other books that are in this year actually already, or I guess listened to some. I consider that reading. I listened to it though. I don't know. It's a nice way to kind of get to know more people. I'm not really here to I don't want to say I'm not here thinking that I'm going to win or anything, but I don't. That's not really why I'm here. I'm here to meet people, find some good writing, find things I enjoy. I'm just right now, honestly, it's just seeing like how broad the swath across like fantasy is for especially people who are submitting to this. Like I've read romantasy books and like I'm seeing like some military books. It's just I don't know. I have no strategy though. That's the bottom line. That's the answer to that question. I'm just here.
You're
Just
the party.
coasting along.
Yep.
And I guess that's fun, you know, you to be able to back off when you need to back off, plug back in when you want to plug in, enjoy everything from all those genres. We got steampunk fantasy this year. I was like, yes! We got all these different genres to try. Oh, how about you, Jim? What's your thought process going into SPFBO? You're a writing veteran. You've got all these books. How does it feel to be plugged into the contest that's like super involved with the community side?
I have less of a strategy than Karen does. I'm just stumbling about in the dark, and I'm part of it. I'm a little bit constricted by I've got the third book in the series is on pre-order, and I have to finish the bloody thing, you know, and I gotta do it now. And yesterday, all the clothing in I say my wife's closet. I get this little teeny section. She's got the rest of it. It all came tumbling down because she had so much clothing on the racks that it pulled the rods down. And you know, I'm in the middle of trying to write a book, and so I'm just don't even know what's going on, right? But I'm hoping for the best, and I'm looking forward to. I want to get the third book done, and then I'm going to focus more on SPFBO. Am I pronouncing it right now?
Yep.
Then I'm going to focus more on SPFBO, and I'm looking forward to finding some really good reading. You know, I think it's going to be fun. But in terms of a strategy for, you know, how to deal with SPFBO, I'm just, like I say, I'm stumbling around in the dark.
Yeah. I think that's really common for a lot of us. That's where I was last year. That's why thank you, Kareem, for the idea for SPFBO News. Since doing it kept me sane and hopefully helped some of the others.
I wasn't even sure that I guess I was accepted because when I went to the SPFBO page, my book is listed under Covers with Cassidy, but I have no freaking idea what that means.
Yeah, Covers with Cassidy.
I'm you know,
and so you can go see some of Cassidy's reviews from last year on Cassidy's BookTube channel, like here on YouTube.
Okay.
It's you and Damien. Is there someone
Yeah.
else on Covers with Cassidy? Am I missing somebody? No. Okay, so it's you and Damien. It's going to be a really interesting year for the blog. Luna says, I'm here for dragons and possibly unique were creatures.
I have those. I have very unique were creatures that are not exactly werewolves.
Nice. We had someone on one of our New Year's blitzes. We were talking about were geese. If you're watching, Huckleberry, love the were geese. Alex, how about you going in this go round, your strategy?
I think just looking for opportunities as they come on. Like this has been really fun. Some newsletter swaps. I followed the blogs and because I wasn't aware of all of them and have really been enjoying watching a few of their videos. And then, yeah, I think just looking for things as they come up and not being afraid to actually raising my hand and saying, I'll do it. I can be a lurker, so I'm trying to not do that.
Me too.
So many of us are introverts, so we support each other, introversion and all. Damien, how about you going in?
So yeah, I'll be honest, I have absolutely no strategy either. To be honest, I love Karen's philosophy there, and I'm officially borrowing it. The whole "I'm here to party, I'm here to meet people," I love it. That's pretty much it. Like in terms of, I think we all know, like from the different books we've written, that the writing world is very kind of subjective, where it's very, very tough to kind of say if one story will kind of succeed where another will fail. There's no way of kind of predicting like reader trends or kind of the interests of the different bloggers. So in terms of influencing it, I'm not sure it's something we can do. But I just want to basically sit back. I want to meet people. I'm enjoying obviously chatting to everybody here. I'm looking forward to more opportunities to chat to other writers. I want to see my TBR expand massively. I want to get as many books in as possible. I love reading kind of indie books, which I'd probably say account for about 80% of everything I read. So it's always good to kind of get an idea of what people are working on, different stories, meet new people, interact and form new friendships, which is, you know, one of the, I think, the key things we need in the writing community. Which El Ryan, you made a very good point there earlier on about the two different parts of Twitter, where there's one part's toxic and the other is very kind of progressive and supportive. And I think that's something I'd 100% agree on. And I do try and tend to stay on the positive side, because that's where I've met all my writing friends. But yeah, so I just basically want to cheerlead, read some good books, and as Karen said, party.
Yeah, yeah. So here we are, sitting ready to throw our books to the wind. Twitter is so scary for me as an author. I felt like this, AJ, until SPFBO last year. And seeing that aspect of the writer community changed everything about how I viewed Twitter as an author. I don't think I've ever seen so much support for indie books, both by readers and bloggers, but then also fellow authors. It's like incredible. Um, I've spent a long time working with people who publish in the trad industry, and traditional publishing is very different. And I know, Jim, you're probably more experienced with that than anybody on this panel. What is this like compared to, let's say, one of these authors went traditional, and there are contests and things like that? Is this that much more involved than what you've seen in the past?
Oh, that's a tough question to answer. 12 years ago, I published another fantasy series, self-published it, and that was after like 30 years of writing, and zero success. You know, I could paper the walls with the rejection letters I got, and you know, I got lucky, and the book went viral, word of mouth, and you know, it sold several tens of thousands of copies, right?
Wow, nice.
Yeah, it was just pure luck. And I bring this up because at that point, I tried to approach traditional publishers, and I was met with anger, distrust, fear. It was bizarre. I was, you know, and here I was, hat in hand, you know, saying, you know, I'd like, you know, I'd really like to work with you, you know, whatever, you know, I'll take any crumbs you'll give me. But they were pissed off, and to be blunt about it, and so it's really hard to gauge the traditional publishing industry, because it's changed so much every year. In the past 10 years, you just can't predict how it's going to be. Now, I got lucky because there were some people in the traditional publishing industry, a young woman named Betsy Mitchell, who is well known in the industry, was thinking outside the box. She was working for Open Road Media, and she immediately, you know, wanted to work with me, and they published a couple of my books. And then she introduced me to David Palmerico at HarperCollins, and he was thinking out of the box. But those are two people, and then he published one of my books at HarperCollins. And those were two people in the industry who were thinking outside the box, who were happy to work with self-published writers. But well, I tell you, the majority were, you know, like I say, it was anger, fear, and I had one of the top editors at one of the biggest publishers. When I mentioned to her, I approached her and I mentioned that I'd had some success at self-publishing. She was giving me eye contact, looking at me and being polite like you have to do. And when I told her I'd had that success, she did this. She just lowered her head and looked at the ground and wouldn't meet my eyes anymore.
Jeez.
So it's different now. It's 10 years later and it's vastly different, but I can't answer that question. I just can't. I don't know. It's different this year than it was last year, and I think it's going to be different next year. I think the main thing that that the traditional publishing industry has come to understand is that the percentage of books that are being sold that are self-published has leveled off at something like 25 to 30%. So now they know that we self-published writers aren't going to put them out of business.
Yeah.
But I don't think they've figured out yet how to work with us. So you're either self-published or you're not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I appreciate you sharing all of that, and I think that just goes to show too, why it's so important to have community if you're self.
Yeah.
Because you make this community and you have this community at your back, and I know it can be daunting, especially as an introvert, and a lot of us are finding that community. So opportunities like SPFBO bring the community together.
And at the same time, other self-published writers. One fellow who became a really good friend of mine, I started approaching other self-published writers, and he looked at me and he said, when he heard what I'd done, he said, excuse me, but he said, "I fucking hate you. Now buy me a drink and let's talk." And and he became a really good friend. And so the other self-published writers out there, I was just stumbling around. I was like a deer in the headlights, and other self-published writers out there were just, welcoming and giving me advice and some of it good, not all of it, but people were wide open. So the self-publishing community is just a really wide open, really cool community. Sorry, I didn't mean to go that long.
No, I think it's good. We don't get a lot of people who, leave trad, start indie, go trad, come back, and then talk about it. I've had a couple people on prior blitzes, but not the SPFBO one. So it just goes to show the importance of community all around and how, we treat each other, whether you're trad or otherwise, and can have the lasting impressions that it does. But let's talk a little bit about bookish things. Our main characters has been a focus of this year's Blitz, because last year all the finalists were pretty much heavy character-driven stories. So we've been talking about the kind of main character that readers are going to follow if they pick up our books. I'm going to let you start us off, Damien, this go round, and tell us a little bit about your main character, what their goals / dreams are. You don't have to give us away, do they get it or not, or anything like that. Because spoilers, we do want to read the books. But who are we going to be following along with?
No worries, yeah. So in Lizard Skin and Sharpened Steel, it's split between 3 POVs. But by far my main character, like in my heart and from the actual story, and probably one of the best characters I personally think I've kind of written. It's a young woman and her name is Boy. She basically grew up in this isolated landmass where dinosaurs exist. She's mentored by her kind of like a foster father, hunter and tracker that she knows as Sir. So it's basically Sir and Boy. She's basically separated from her home culture in the sense that she never grew up in quote unquote civilization. She's out there on the frontiers where everything is a fight for survival. At an early age, she learns how to track and hunt the different dinosaurs that they can kind of eat for kind of meat. She knows how to kind of fashion weapons and kind of primitive tools. She basically helps her mentor, Sir, try and set up a dinosaur meat export kind of business on the side. But she consistently kind of feels shunned from the locals who kind of live in the general area. So basically colonists who come over and settle on the coastlines, because she's so different, and because they would have grown up in what they call the Kingdom of Hibernia. She's originally, her parents are from there, but she's never actually seen it. So she feels this degree of separation from everybody else that she meets. She's got an almost kind of overly positive outlook on life, which doesn't really meet reality sometimes, but that can be mixed in with like very hardened instincts on how to survive in such a rugged kind of terrain. So the story basically follows her as she leads a bunch of armed, sword-wielding mercenaries deeper into these jungles. They have to. It's a pretty suicidal mission. She has to basically lead them in. It's about a 3-day march into where the Tyrannosaurus Rex, his nest lives. And for the record, I'm only using that for clarity. They call them the King Jaws, so because Latin isn't invented in this world, so they refer to them as great lizards, and the what we'd call a T-Rex is a King Jaws. They lead. She used to lead them into the jungles on a 3-day trek, and everything that does go or could go wrong does go wrong. Essentially, it's one of those Murphy's Law situations where no matter what they do to prepare themselves for every single eventuality, it just ends up in absolute mayhem. And something I like to do with my writing, I love kind of putting in plot twists, and I love misdirection. So there's a lot of that, and that's something I've kind of challenged anyone who's kind of read the first few pages. Is the idea you have on the first couple of opening chapters is completely different by the end of the book. It's complete another twist. So she was a pleasure to write. She's really, really strong, fantastic character. Can't keep her down, utterly resilient. Just will do anything it takes to try and basically save as many people as she can, while also getting out of there alive.
Yeah, getting a lot of love in the chat about this.
Thank you.
Dinosaurs are just dragons without wings.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I'm pitching it.
Yeah. How about you, Karen? Tell us a little bit about your main character.
Yeah, so since I didn't show my book the first time, this is not the cover that's on ebook, but there you go. So Sade is, as you kind of heard earlier, grew up in the gangs. She's kind of one of the hard hand and tarry lunged individuals who has always been willing to risk her life just because that's just the type of person that she is, I guess, in these daring airship heists, because it is floating land masses. So she's willing to make that big dive and try to get the big payout. But when she makes the determination that she's kind of done with that life and that she's, maybe ready to settle down at the ripe old age of 19, she starts looking at what her actual interests and things that she wants to do in her life are. And, she just wants to make dresses and, get out of the hard life that she's in. But obviously that doesn't necessarily happen. So I don't, with her, she's one of those reluctant heroes. So she finds out all of these conspiracies. I'm trying not to give away too much, but she finds out all these conspiracies in the magical world and just within high society, and just how entwined magic is with high society and the actual structure of their entire political system, and doesn't necessarily want to do anything about it, but kind of starts to feel like, oh, but if I don't, then nobody else is going to. One of those kind of don't look up sort of situations. If we just pretend that the world's not coming to an end, maybe it won't. But when she realizes nobody else is going to do it, she takes matters into her own hands sort of situation. So, I'd say she's lived a hard life, and now she's looking to calm that down, but doesn't get that opportunity. So,
Whoo! I love a good reluctant hero. My poor TBR list. Oh my goodness. Alex, how about you and your main character?
So I would say two main ones. You have the High Seer Arian and then the Blacksmith Theo. I do have a few other point of view characters that are going to be more important in later books in the series. So we get a few of their points of view, and then they're going to sort of take the main stage in various parts of the story. So Aryan is the High Seer. Her country is set up to where there aren't kings anymore. The last of the kings have died out. And so they're ruled by the seers because they can foresee famine and drought and war. And so why not have someone tell you what's coming so you can avoid all the bad things and make sure you're doing what you need to do to survive? So she's sort of the ruler at the time. She is immersed in a world of magic and visions, and she's had this immense duty since she was a child. And so she sometimes loses touch with reality a little bit. She's not sure what's real. She's not sure what's a vision. She'll have a vision and then not be sure if that's the future that came true. And so she can kind of get caught up in this duty and destiny. And she's very fierce, though. She's a total badass. There's going to be no stopping her. She kind of is willing to do whatever it takes to get what she wants. Though not in a sword, not a sword wielding way. She's kind of I'm gonna use all these various things of the future to like throw this person down the stairs or like trick this person to do this. So she's kind of sometimes uses her powers not for good. And then the other one is the blacksmith Theo, and he's the exact opposite. He just wants to open a forge and make swords in a small village and help his parents farm. And he ends up coming to the city to be able to get the certification for his forge. Basically, the seers are going to tell everyone he's not going to burn down the village soon, or he's not likely to like burn down the village if we give him a forge. So he's trying to get that. And he gets wrapped up in a world of magic that he wasn't really aware of. He doesn't know the different magics of all the people or anything. And while everyone is very superstitious, he's learning, oh, magic is real and it's big and it's powerful. And he's sort of reluctant to step into this world of politics and assassinations and magic. And he's like, I have no idea why you think I'm the one that should do this. I don't even know when to bow. I don't know what spoon to use. Why are you trying to get me to do this? But he slowly kind of starts to accept some of what she says he has to do. And then I guess we find out if she was right.
Nothing like going to get fire insurance and they're like, by the way, you have to save the world. Here's a bunch of magic. It's like, dude, I just wanted to write you a check and take my insurance and go home. That's it.
Yeah, no, you got something else to do first.
A big something else. This is way bigger than a farmer. I should have just become a farmer. Oh, goodness. Jim, how about your main character for the book you've got in SPFBO?
So I like really sprawling epic fantasy. And so I divided the Dreadlands into 3 realms. There's the 4 duchies, and they're modeled very much after, say, a classic Northern European medieval-ish kind of structure. There is the and then there are the Scairn. Those are the fairy-like people. They have the throne of myth and legend, and they're in the far north, and they're very much modeled after kind of Celtic culture. And then the 3rd realm is the lowland city-states, and I had a lot of fun modeling them after I took Rome at its height in around 100 BC, and I kind of modeled those city-states after Rome. And then I started creating characters within them. So the main character is this young peasant boy, and he's a half-breed Scairn bondservant in the duchies. There's another main character, a young girl named Carrie, and she is royalty in Mithria and a potential heir to the throne of myth and legend. And what happened as I was writing was, so I usually work with anywhere from 8 or 9 POV characters. Some of them are minor POV characters needed to show something in the background. But what happened is that in other characters, they started to come out as significant players, as protagonists in the story and antagonists. But Ket and Carrie are connected in that Carrie starts having visions of Ket. All right. And something's happening with the dread mark, and they don't know what. And then the main antagonist is this wizard Caneborn, the fellow on the cover of the first book. He keeps reading in these old scrolls about the dread mark and its powers, and he's not sure what it is. All right. And so as Carrie and Ket develop, they're completely separated from one another, and they're ultimately thrown together in the third book. But another character that evolved was Aurelius in this Roman-like city. He's the second son of Marius, who is the Senatus Supreme. Marius is the ruler of these city-states. And when Marius dies, Aurelius is the second son, so his weak brother inherits the Senatus Supreme. And his brother's a nice guy, but he's really weak. And Aurelius ends up kind of with no power. He's an interesting character because he has no power, but he's kind of running the city-states in the background because his brother is extremely weak. Someone else had a character named Aurelius, I saw. All right.
I love that you got the sprawling cast. But
at the same time, you have to limit that and slow down. So, the characters themselves, you don't want to use 30 different POV characters. So I have to make a conscious effort to keep some of the characters as just minor POV characters. They might help fill in a moment where you learn behind the scenes that someone's about to assassinate someone, that kind of thing. So, but the two main characters, I'd say the main characters are Ket, Carrie, Aurelius. Aurelius's lover, who is a slum boss. She's an interesting character. Hessian is her name. And she's not a POV character, but she's a very interesting character. So, Ket slowly finds himself, Caneborn murders Ket's mother and kidnaps Ket and installs him in a monastery to see what happens with the bearer of the dread mark. And it evolves from there.
Wow.
So like I said, I like a big sprawling epic. And my other series have taken, this is the first series I've written that only took 3 books.
So for the epic fantasy people who are watching, who are like, I love the big long epics, Jim's is the book for you.
And that's what I love. I love a big long epic. I don't write the never-ending series though. I like a series to come to an end. I like to have, you've got that overall story arc, and you do want to see that overall story arc resolved in the end. So, like I say, usually about 4 books, but this one I'm coming to the conclusion after 3.
Awesome. And Elle, last but definitely not least, I want to hear about your main character.
All right. In direct contrast to Jim, we have a very small world.
Cheers.
Very isolated. It's an island nation. So the main characters are, I basically have 2. Alaris is our 16-year-old who I think, as I said before, she, separated from her family 8 years before the evil emperor has overthrown, the whole tribal society. And so he's kind of taken over. And so things have changed a lot. She's now a servant girl. Just like I said, she was locked away, doesn't know why. 16th birthday, discovers that she can dream walk. And so she does end up, realizing at this point that the emperor is starting to look for something bigger, more than just the island. He wants to overthrow more, take over more countries, more locations, but they don't know what he's looking for to do it, which of course turns out to be a dragon. And when she is going through all of this, they're trying to just figure out what it was that's so, interesting about her that they wanted to lock her away, or she's trying to figure it out. Obviously, the emperor knows. What she discovers is that it is her ability to dream walk. And her whole family has had this ability, which she did not know. And she ends up having to team up with the other main character, who is Kagan, who is an 18-year-old guardsman, about, as, like I said, as obnoxious as it gets, as far as, your typical 18-year-old boy who knows what he's doing. And I don't know, I like to compare it to An Ember in the Ashes, if anybody's read that one, just because I'm like, it's like kind of like An Ember in the Ashes, but with dragons, because he's very trained. He's been trained for the last 8 years to do all of this fighting and stuff. So of course he's a great fighter, with all the stuff, all the what am I trying to say? Swords and axes and whatever. He can wield it all. He can do it all. You don't want to mess with him. He can kill you with his bare hands. He doesn't need much more than that.
He's a for the fantasy world.
Yeah, right. The two of them have to team up, which of course, it's like, okay, she's basically his captor. He's basically her captor. And so it was kind of fun to make that hate in the beginning. And as they kind of go through, his worldview starts to change as he realizes, maybe this empire I've been so quick to defend actually isn't that great for most people. So, it was kind of fun to take them through the whole, like, yes, I absolutely hate you too. Ew, you're kind of the same as me, and I don't like that. That makes me very uncomfortable. That's a lot of fun to do. So,
that's how you know there's a good character arc right there, when you reach the moment where it's like you're actually the same as me with somebody that you really, really hated. And not just like the forced, I don't like you because you're so handsome and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, seriously, I really hated everything about you. And, oh my gosh, you're a mirror for me. This is not good.
They both really believe in their own causes, in their own, she believes everything that's going on is absolutely evil and awful because her whole family was destroyed because of it. And she was thrown into servitude. And he, of course, believes, well, this is what we were told, that the emperor knows the whole plan for everything. And that, he's going to make the empire great. And that's what, and it was something that kind of came about when you're, question what you're told, children, question what you're told.
Yeah. Great morals and great stories all around. I know we have a lot more people on now than we did when we started, so I'll say this again. If any of these piqued your interest, because there's a huge variety here, you can go in the description box. You can grab the books, follow the authors, check out Mark Lawrence's official blog too, because I put it in the link as well. Mark organizes this for free every year for these 300 authors, and these bloggers do all this work. So follow along, support the blog, support Mark and what he is doing for us as the indie community. We got some love there. Yeah, so this is panel number 12 of, goodness, a lot. About 20 something, I want to say. So if you have missed the other panels, there's an entire playlist on my channel where you can go and watch the first 40 authors who we've interviewed between Saturday and now. And then we have another 20 plus authors coming over the next few days. So not including the ones today. There's over 70 authors total who are going to be on. So subscribe to catch everybody. Good luck, everybody. Seriously. I hope to see some semifinalists and finalists come out of the group. Take care.
Cheers. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
Good luck,
Katherine.
Bye.